Well, Friday will mark the 30th anniversary of the Montreal Canadiens' last Stanley Cup victory as they beat the Wayne Gretzky-led LA Kings in 5 games. It was the last cup won by a Canadian team. There have been close calls and at least one cup-clinching goal that did not count in the time since. But the anniversary has sparked a great debate among our analysts over who might have been the best team during Canada's Stanley Cup drought.
The best Canadian team over the last 30 years of the Stanley Cup drought is
the team that should have, could have, didn't.
The 2011 Vancouver Canucks.
The team with the best record in the entire National Hockey League this season. They are going to the Stanley Cup final.
Obviously, the number one choice would be the Vancouver Canucks of the 2010-2011 season. But because I'm from Quebec City, I'm going to go back to the 94-95 Quebec Nordiques. Their last season in Quebec City with Joe Sakic and Forsberg and Owen Nolan. Wendell Clark was with that team as well. They were second in the NHL that season. They did lose in the first round to the New York Rangers, but they were also a year too early. The next season, they moved to Colorado and win the Stanley Cup with a guy named Patrick Roy in that.
Well, obviously, it has to be the 2004 Calgary Flames, not because I'm biased and I played on that team until the trade deadline and I was traded for Chris Simon, but if you look at the body of work and how well they played down the stretch under head coach Daryl Sutter, tight system, star power in Jerome McGinley and Mika Kiprasov, who were at the top of their games. And you could argue that they did win in Game 6.
Calgary trying to win the cup tonight, and there goes a speedy Sepprikin again. Got in! That was a close call, that latest one.
They were up, and Marty Jelena, it looked like it went over the line on Nikolai Habibula, and I know there's been talk about the parallax angle and camera angles and all that, but they should have won the Stanley Cup. That night in Game 6, Tampa comes back to win in overtime, and then they win in Game 7 back in Tampa. So good for Tampa, but that Calgary Flames team was built to win the Stanley Cup, and they were that close to winning it in 6 games in Calgary.
No one's quite got it done. But I look back at the 2011 Vancouver Canucks.
A team that featured 3 Hall of Famers, Roberto Luongo and Henrik and Daniel Sedin. A 54-win regular season that saw them win the President's Trophy.
They finished ahead of everybody in the regular season by 10 points. I mean, that's how dominant they were in the regular season.
They had the right mix of elements. They had the superstars in the Sedin twins, Daniel and Henrik. They had the grit in Ryan Kessler and Kevin Bieksa. They had the depth. They had, character players like Alexander Burrows.
Campoli gave it away. Burrows walks in. He scores! Alex Burrows wins it for Vancouver.
They went all the way to the Cup Finals, unfortunately losing in 7 games to the Boston Bruins.
For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
I think that was the team that should have won the Cup, that arguably had the best chance to win the Cup.
They were the closest to any Canadian team and the best of any Canadian team of having a chance to win the Stanley Cup.
But from start to finish, it was a dominant season for the Vancouver Canucks. It was a team that was knocking on the door of winning, and they found a way to get to the finals. They lost in Game 7, but we have not seen a Canadian team as good as the 2011 Vancouver Canucks.